The video that I bring to you now is from a YouTube that's called Sisters for Fitness. And she interviewed the Chief Executive Officer of the American Diabetes Association. And I want you to hear what she has to say about being diabetic and controlling your blood sugar and how she's used reducing the amount of sugar and carbs that she eats, finally admitting that that's the problem and that reducing that and being mindful of that is important. Guys, it's really starting to come along. People are really starting to see that the whole keto movement and stuff, there's so much potential behind it. And now the Chief Executive Officer of the American Diabetes Association is basically openly admitting that being mindful of the amount of sugar and carbs that you eat, because carbs are sugar, is what you have to do to control the fact that you have this condition, this diabetic condition. Watch what she has to say.
Our guest today is Tracy D. Brown. She's the Chief Executive Officer of the American Diabetes Association.
Right, and there's two sides to the silent killer. So just as you described, Stephanie, diabetes is about having elevated blood sugar or blood glucose. So how do you get this elevated blood sugar? It happens because one of two things. Either your body doesn't produce insulin, and that would be you're a type 1 person living with diabetes. That's an autoimmune disease. The other is you still produce insulin, but you don't produce enough of it, or you have insulin resistance. So when you don't have enough insulin in your body, your blood sugars or your blood glucose rises. You don't feel bad. This is the silent part of it until you reach a complication. And the time you reach a complication, Stephanie, you have been living with elevated blood sugars for quite some time. So here are just a few sobering statistics. Every 2 minutes, somebody is having a stroke or heart attack as a complication of diabetes. Every 10 minutes, somebody's having kidney failure from diabetes and its complications. And every 5 minutes, somebody is losing a limb. By the time you've gotten to those kinds of complications, you've been living with this elevated blood sugar for a while. And here's the thing, our blood travels through every part of your body. So every part of your body, every organ, your mind, your eyes, your heart, your liver, your kidney, your limbs, all affected, all affected.
So let's talk about the fact that when you're insulin resistant, too, that means you're pre-diabetic. There's so many people, they don't even know that they're at the river's edge.
That's exactly right. So one of the things that we need to do, and I'm so glad that you're actually talking about this on your show, there are 84 million people living with prediabetes. 90% of those people don't know that they're living with prediabetes. That's 75 million people. So we could get ahead of this thing, Stephanie, just by awareness and knowing your numbers. Just how people know their blood pressure, the color of their eyes, those statistics, I want people to understand, what is my blood glucose? What is my A1C? It needs to be that automatic. The more people know, the more you can get ahead of this and actually stop yourself from going into complications.
I was diagnosed during pregnancy, and I was told that it would go away after the pregnancy, or probably go away. And then maybe 10 years later, because it runs in my family, my mother and father, my mother recently passed from complications from that after getting her leg amputated. So I was told that within 10 years it might come back, and I mean, it was almost exactly to the day. 10 years later, I was diagnosed as a diabetic. So if you do suffer from gestational diabetes, take it seriously.
Yes. And that, I mean, Stephanie, that's my story. You and I share similar stories. I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes when I was pregnant with my daughter, and told the very same thing. I had to go on insulin during my pregnancy, but was told, you know, don't really worry. For 80% of the women, it will go away. It'll go back dormant, and all will be well. Well, I had a beautiful daughter. The diabetes didn't go away. So my gestational diabetes actually turned into type 2 diabetes. And so I continued to be on insulin even post having my daughter. And I didn't take it seriously. I didn't take it seriously for 5 years. If I could rewind the clock, I would do things differently, because that's 5 years of elevated blood sugars going through my body. And it wasn't until my daughter was 5 years old at the time. I only have one daughter. My husband and I are blessed just with one, so she gets all the love. But we're very close, and so every morning she would be getting ready for kindergarten. I would be getting ready for work. She would see me take my insulin shots. She would see me prick my finger every single day. One day, and I'll never forget the day, Stephanie, she just looked, she stopped and she looked up at me and said, "Mommy, are you gonna die from diabetes?" I'll actually never forget the moment. I'll never forget how I felt. I'll never forget the resolve that fell over me. And I immediately looked at her and I said, "No, Mommy's actually not gonna die from diabetes." And I made a commitment to her, myself, my husband, my family, that from this point forward, I would be the poster child of how you actually thrive while living with diabetes, that I would unapologetically tell my story to break the silence, right? And that I would do everything in my power to continue to raise awareness and continue to fight for a cure.
I'm going to bust myself out. Now, before the show, you told me you were diabetic. And you told me the story of having gestational diabetes. And I said, were you overweight at the time? And you said no. And you told me that that just gives the impression that diabetes has a certain look, that all people who are diabetic are overweight.
Right.
And you said that's not true.
That is not true, and that is a part of the stigma that is actually associated with the disease, particularly type 2. So there are so many factors that lead to diabetes, which makes it complicated. That's why this disease is actually very complicated. Genetics plays a role, most definitely. Your lifestyle does play a role. What you eat, how you exercise, your sleep, your stress level. These are all of the things that actually impact whether someone can develop particularly type 2 diabetes. And it goes without saying, every time I speak out about my story, because I go all over as far and wide as I can to tell my story, inevitably, every single presentation I do, someone will come up to me and say, "You don't look like you have diabetes." Now, I think they mean it as a compliment, but that's actually very hurtful and actually just plays into the stereotype, because you've just made 1,000 assumptions about what someone living with diabetes should be like, should look like. And a part of the silent killer piece is people stay silent. Why do people stay silent? Because there's this stigma associated with the fact that, well, you must have done it to yourself. Now, I don't like to compare chronic diseases. God forbid that anybody has any kind of chronic disease. But there is never a perception, if you tell someone that you are diagnosed with cancer, people don't make any assumptions about how you got it, what you were doing, why you don't look like you have, there's none of those stereotypes that go along with it. And so people carry around a burden of, I'm not going to talk about the fact that I have diabetes because I might be judged.
Yeah, or you don't take good care of yourself.
That's exactly right.
You overeat, you don't exercise.
That's exactly right.
Taking care of yourself. That's why you
That's exactly right.
are diabetic.
Yep.
So you were so committed to the cause that you left corporate America to do the job that you're doing right now.
That is correct. I have spent my last 30 years of career has been in the corporate for-profit space. I'm a chemical engineer. I went back and got my MBA, and then I've worked for some very large companies, Procter & Gamble, American Express, Dell Computers, most recently Walmart. And honestly, Stephanie, I thought that I would retire from Walmart. Loved the company, was the chief marketing and experience officer there, and doing great work for the company. I was very involved in the local chapter in Bentonville, Arkansas, which is where Walmart is headquartered, and using my platform with Walmart to actually tell my story. So I am very quick to tell people that I have been living with diabetes for 16 years. I'm very quick to ask people, do you know your numbers? I'm very quick to share ways that I'm actually managing and thriving while living with this disease. And so I participated in an event that happens with the American Diabetes Association around the country. It's called the Kiss a Pig Gala. Why pig? Because pigs were the first form of insulin. And so this is kind of an ode to the pig and the first form of insulin. But really it is, they choose corporate leaders in the community, and you are in this competition to see who can raise the most awareness and the most money. And I won the Kiss a Pig Gala, which included having to kiss a pig, which I wasn't, I didn't really quite understand all the rules, but the point is, I raised a lot of money, and from the local Bentonville, Arkansas chapter, then got involved at the national level. And I was selected to join the national board of directors for the American Diabetes Association. Because of my passion and vocalness, you can probably tell, Stephanie, I'm very type A, right? Like, you're not gonna tell me that I can't, take control, take care of my body. And so I was very vocal about the fact that there are millions of people suffering and dying where they don't actually need to. And I was very vocal about things that I thought we should be doing more of, less of, better. And you should be careful sometimes of how vocal you are, because the table was turned and they said, yes, you're right, there is more to be done, and why don't you come join and become the CEO of the American Diabetes Association? And I was like, wait, I got a good job, I'm in Bentonville, Arkansas. But upon further reflection, Stephanie, I also believe that God has a divine purpose for every single person on this earth. And that if you can understand what your purpose is and align it with your passion and align it with your position, I think that's where the unlock happens. And when you can get those rings in line, I believe that you can then start to become the best version of yourself. So while I laughed and joked, and my husband and I laughed and joked initially, because I came back home and I was like, they asked me to be the CEO of the American Diabetes Association, ha ha ha. But then we took an actual minute and said, we need to be prayerful over this. And that's when I really began to understand, no, this is a part of actually my bigger purpose. That I am actually here to do something bigger than myself. And while all of my successes in corporate America were come together for such a time as this, Stephanie, I happen to be the first CEO in the 80-year history of the American Diabetes Association to actually live with the disease.
That's amazing.
That's God.
Tracy, how have you been living with the disease? What are some of the things you do to stay healthy? So, I take this, I'm going to be the poster child of how to thrive while living with diabetes very seriously. As I mentioned to you, I was on insulin. After the wake-up moment with my daughter, I decided that I was actually going to work my way off of insulin. Again, as a type 2, I can do that. My body still produced insulin, just not enough of it, and then the insulin resistance. So I decided that I was actually going to change my lifestyle. So I became much more in tune around what I was eating. I always exercised, but decided that I was actually going to do more in a different kind of exercise. The area that I was not really good at, which people don't really understand how sleep actually affects your blood sugar. I was sleeping, Stephanie, maybe 4 hours a night. I'm a night owl. And so I thought I felt pretty good after 4 hours of sleep, and I've been doing this for a very long time. I had to figure out how to get more sleep and how to fit more sleep into the day. That had a tremendous impact as well on my blood sugars. And then the final one is stress management. Again, this one was a little harder for me. I'm not into yoga. I'm not into yoga. So I had to even learn how to de-stress. Because I didn't really feel stress, but you carry a lot.
You are. Do you know most people carry that stress with them? Of course, the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic system. And a lot of us are at this state all the time. You got to bring it down. Now, you can't stay in that parasympathetic state all the time. You can't stay meditative all the time. But you got to find that happy mid-place.
That's exactly right. So that's what I had to do. And so I am so happy to say that I got off of insulin. And then I went to oral medication. And I was on 4 oral pills. And I said, I'm going to work my way off the orals. Doing this, Stephanie, what it requires is for you to manage your blood glucose level. I wear a continuous glucose monitor right now in my arm that gives me real-time data of what is happening actually with my blood sugars. And so I am very happy to report I've been using my real-time data to tweak this formula between what I eat, how much I exercise, sleep, stress management. I've gotten off of 3 of the 4 pills. I'm down to my last pill, and I am predicting by the end of this year, I will be on no medication. And so why do I tell this story? Because I didn't do anything exponentially, oh my God, this is like, anybody can do it. Anybody can do what I did. And I'm not suffering for it. I don't walk around starving, right? It's not about, I don't walk around starving. I don't actually work out 5 days. People are like, you work out 5, 7 days a week. No, actually, I do not. I have fit all of this in to my lifestyle. And I am the CEO of a very large organization. So if I can, everyone can. And so I just try to encourage people, set goals. The very first goal that I ask people is, do you even know what your numbers are? And when they tell me no, I say, this is what I want you to do. Go to your doctor. Go to a clinic. You can even go to Walmart. You can get your blood glucose for free at Walmart. And then Walmart once a quarter has Walmart Wellness Days where you can actually get your A1C tested for free. So there's no reason why people should not know their numbers. So that's step 1. So identify even if you have an issue. You could be people walking around, again, I told you 90% of people walking around pre-diabetic and don't even know it.
So as far as eating is concerned, that's especially if you're living a busy lifestyle, making sure you're eating right. As a busy person, sometimes you just grab and go.
Yes. So
and you're eating these packaged foods. You don't know how much sugar. You don't know how much. You don't know what's in this stuff, but you just need something.
That's exactly right. So the food one is a big one, Stephanie, because you need obviously food for fuel, but food is also social. Food is emotional. There's all kinds of things that come along with food. So
and with if you're an alcoholic, you can stop drinking. You can't stop eating.
Yes.
So you got to learn what works.
What works. And that's the thing. So people ask me all the time, what can I eat, Tracy? Like, what's the magic formula? Well, I don't know if there is a magic formula, right? There are all kinds of what we call nutritional therapies that you can have. Some people are vegetarian, Mediterranean diet, paleo diet, all of these low-carb diets, keto. There's so much stuff out there, and I think that causes confusions for people. Here's what I do. It's pretty simple. Elevated blood sugars happen when you have sugars in your body and you don't have insulin to manage the sugars in your body. So a simple thing that I do is manage the sugars in my body. So what are sugars? Sugars are sugars, you can read it on a box, but carbohydrates turn into sugar. So I just try to get people, be a little aware of how many carbohydrates you're actually putting in your body. And carbohydrates come in many shapes or forms, right? Bread is a carbohydrate. Pasta is a carbohydrate. Actually, fruits, right? Some people are like fruits. Some fruits are high in carbohydrates. So as someone living with diabetes, you actually have to be mindful. Now, here's what I will say. The world has changed quite a bit. That even with fast food, there's usually something on a fast food menu that you can get. So if I'm in a pinch and I'm running through an airport and need to get something because, eating on a regular basis is important. And the only thing that I see is a fast food, something or other, I can still go in there. Usually they'll have a salad option. And if they don't have a salad option, they'll usually have some sandwich, burger, chicken, something. I take that and I toss the bun. So there's always a way for you to work around it. But my advice to people is start paying attention to sugars and carbohydrates. And those are listed on nearly every packaged anything that you would buy. And with cell phones today, you can look up, if you're in McDonald's, Burger King, Chick-fil-A, any of these, you can look up on the internet how many carbohydrates are in XYZ, and it'll tell you.
What if you're cooking at home? Of course, we're coming on, the holiday season. People are cooking at home, and they might not want to substitute non-sugars in that apple pie. And how do you cook healthy?
Yeah, so
For you and your family,
right, and this is one, Stephanie, that I think is really, really important. When you think about different cultures in particular, some cultures, carbohydrates, sugars, all of those things are a core piece. Rice, for some cultures, is a staple element.
Bread.
So you actually just have to start to think, as you're cooking, what are the things that you could substitute? So when I talk to people, I was talking to Asian woman not long ago, and one of her things was like, don't tell me that I can't have rice. Like, I eat rice several times a day, and I'm like, I get it. What I will tell you is, if you're eating rice 4 times a day, can you cut it to 2? And for those other 2, substitute a non-starchy vegetable or something, or meat, or something that is actually lower in carbs. Because it's inconceivable to believe that people will just not ever eat carbs again. I don't believe that that's
I think we've demonized carbs as well. But like you said earlier, manage your carbohydrates.
Yes.
You don't have to get rid of everything.
That's exactly right. And I still eat some carbohydrates. I don't eat nearly the amount of carbohydrates that I used to. But again, based on my body and my blood sugars, I know which foods really spike my blood sugars and which carbohydrates don't spike them as much. I don't eat rice anymore, Stephanie, simply because it really has spiked my blood sugars really, really high. But that doesn't mean it would spike your blood sugars really, really high. I can still have, in moderation, French fries. My blood sugar will rise very, very high on rice. Doesn't rise as high with French fries. Now, why is that, one would say? Well, French fries have fat in it. Fat will slow down the absorption of the sugar into my blood. So there are little tricks that you learn along the way.
Well, Tracy, there's like 20 more minutes of stuff that I want to talk to you about, but we only have 1 minute left. So I would like to ask you to stay for another segment of the show. Also, during that segment, I want to ask you what the American Diabetes Association is doing to help people manage their diabetes, as well as things like the cost of insulin and diabetes medicine, and people who are having a hard time taking half dosages because they can't afford the medicine. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. You've been watching the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines Bryant. We've been talking to Tracy D. Brown, and she's the CEO of the American Diabetes Association. We'll be back with part 2 of this program after this.
There are some key takeaways from this video. At 15 minutes and 45 seconds, the executive of the American Diabetes Association says, that she's talking to this Asian woman, and the Asian woman says, well, I eat rice 4 times a day. You're going to tell me that I can't eat rice 4 times a day? And she says, well, maybe you don't need it 4 times a day. How about you just have it 2 times a day and you substitute with some other type of vegetable or meat? And I was like, wow, that's pretty powerful. And then right before that, she had actually mentioned paleo and keto and stuff, and these are other types of therapy or diets that can be used to control diabetes. Pretty powerful video overall. And if you guys would, please go over to the channel, Sisters for Fitness, and give them a like, give them a shout out, tell them I sent you, subscribe to their channel. I appreciate you guys. Fitness for Sisters. I'm probably saying it wrong, but you'll see the heading in the back of the video. Go over there, tell them the Keto Mechanics sent you, and subscribe to their channel. Pretty good content. Thanks, guys. Let me know what you think about the video.